Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be looking at the anti-tank Communicant and painting him up for my Trench Pilgrims army. So starting off, we start off with the black base coat and then we hit all of the skin with the Citadel base Wraithbone. That is because the main flesh colour that I want to use is Rakar flesh and then built up from there, and that doesn't cover amazingly well for a base paint. So then we move on to Rakar flesh, which is another base colour. It's kind of like an off greyish beige, and I want the skin to look really weird because these are vat grown using the genetic coding of the Metachrist. So I wanted to make the skin look really weird. And then it's a case of picking out the browns. For the brown, I use Dryad bark. And for the base on the robes, I use the Citadel base Grey Seer because I want them to be white. I want my Trench Pilgrims to look all dirty, but using like majority white robes. Moving on from there, like the heavy mechanized infantry video that I did, which I'll pin in the top right hand corner, I'm using stippling to create like a pre-shade of rust. So I am using Dryad bark. I'm then stippling on with my sponge Dryad bark mixed with Scrag brown, and then Scrag brown mixed with some Troll Slayer orange just to make some of those rust points really pop. I then pick out the skulls again in the Wraithbone colour. There are some skulls in that really nasty looking flail. A few bones and stuff on some of the reliquaries he's got on his back and what have you. So just use the same base beige to pick those out. I then add a layer of pallid witch flesh onto the robes. Just bring those up a little more and make them look more pale and white. Then off-white pallid witch flesh, I think it works really well. And then going back to the metallics and going back to the flail. Going back to the flail, we're going to use the same sponging method and add some Vallejo gunmetal over some of those rust areas, and then picking out some of the other metallics in using the brush. For the bells on the flail and the crosses that are all over him, I use 2 thin coats Spartan bronze. Now essentially this entire section is just about picking out your details, picking out what colours you want for which area, and then building them up after our first pass of an enamel wash. So using MIG's dark brown wash for green vehicles, I'll cover the entire model in that. And then let that dry. And start using a Q-tip. Just clean the excess off, leaving the recesses and leaving some of the areas, especially down towards the bottom of the legs, more dirty, as obviously walking through the mud barefoot, walking through these trench World War I themed trench warfare battlefields, you're gonna get a little bit muddy even if you are wearing shoes. Now here's where I made a bit of a mistake. I really wasn't happy. I spent ages on the skin and I really wasn't happy with it. And there's nothing wrong with that. What I then did is I went back over the flesh with Rakar flesh. And then I had a really watered down shade of Druchii Violet. Now I want this skin to look a little bit weird. I want it to look cold, and Druchii Violet does that really well. Once I've done that, I start stippling on some Rakar flesh. Now I'm doing this very watered down, using a very small dry brush, and I'm just stippling on the raised areas. that is going to allow me to pick out points that I want when I do the enamel pass on the skin again. It's going to give me more depth, and overall it's going to make the model, in my opinion, look better. So once I clean that off, again just using clean mineral spirits and a Q-tip, I go back in with that stippling motion and stipple on some pallid witch flesh and start bringing out those raised areas on the model where certain more bits are going to get seen and picked out and what have you. I highlight the wood with a mix of Karak stone and dryad bark, just so it looks a little different to the leather, which I do a mix of dryad bark and scrag brown like I did for my rust. And then it's a case of going back in and picking out some more of the metallics. Now I use Dirty Downs verdigris for this. I'm not 100% sure what I feel about it. The rust is insanely good. The verdigris, I think I need to play with it a little bit more. And then after that, I go back in with a stippling motion with the brush and I build up that gold using Tooth & Coat's Dragon Gold as a bit more of a highlight. Now, to finish this off and tie it into the base, I get some Turned Dirt by Mig, and I just use an old end of a toothbrush and I flick that over the model. And then obviously if it goes over too much and in too many areas like I had on the chest, you can then remove that with clean mineral spirits and a brush. And then yeah, that is the model done. So what do you think? Let me know down below. We are going to do another terrain video next. We're going to look at making some modular trenches in 3 different ways. And then move on to painting up some more trench pilgrims and then some heretics and a lot more Trench Crusade stuff to come. I do stream on Twitch 3 days a week, so come hang out. I do painting streams usually every Saturday during the day. Links are all down below. Come and hang out, let us know what you think, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.